Welcome to California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We are joined by Patrick O'Donnell. He is a new member of the California State Assembly. He had served on the Long Beach City Council, was also a high school government teacher.
Correct.
So I want to speak with you about what made a government teacher / city council member decide to run for the State Assembly.
Well, I was brought up in a family that I was taught to leave the world better than you found it.
Fair enough.
When we go camping, it was always
Right.
leave the campsite cleaner than you found it. We'll also leave the world better than you found
Right.
it. So thus my mission began about 10.5 years ago when I was elected to City Council. And as I ran through City Council for the last, 10.5 years, I saw that, I have some experiences that I think are applicable and can be useful at the state level. We've been through tough budget times. I'm a teacher. Education is very important to me. It's important to our state and our economy as well.
I have to ask you, not about your fellow council members and what they think about your win, but your students. What do your students think about the fact that Mr. O'Donnell is going to Sacramento?
They think it's great.
Yeah.
And I've related to things going on in their lives.
Right.
Certainly education. I teach seniors and they're on their way to
Right.
college, and I've taught them about the relationship between the state legislature and how we fund colleges.
And I gotta ask you, it may seem simple, but how does your years teaching government, not on the Long Beach City Council, but teaching government, inform your role as an assembly member? I mean, you know the ins and outs, you know the nitty gritty, you know the philosophies, you know the theories.
Well, theory is much easier than practice, right?
Of course.
And even on the city council, I found
Right.
that to be true. I'm sure I'll find that to be true as I head into the state legislature.
Right.
So, but the classroom experience has been great. What I get is a lot of feedback from the kids, what's going on in their lives, both at home and in the classroom setting. And those are the kinds of things I want to take to Sacramento. And people have said to me, hey, O'Donnell, why do you want to leave the classroom? And to me, I'm not leaving the classroom. I'm taking my classroom experience with me to Sacramento to be a voice for education.
But you are leaving the city council.
Correct. I have left the city council.
Of a major city.
Absolutely.
And you did great work, I'm sure, over the last 10.5 years. How does that inform your work in Sacramento?
That's a great question. Well, when I started out in 2004, it was good times.
Oh,
we
yes.
We were handing things out. And quickly the wind shifted. And I had to grow up and I had to make some tough decisions. And I made those tough decisions, and I stand by those tough decisions. And what I take with me to Sacramento is budget, budget, budget. You live and die by your budget. Watch those dollars very carefully.
Speaking of budget, you are heading a very significant committee with a large budget, and that's the Education Committee.
Correct.
That is stunning, and I congratulate you on that appointment. You will have a significant role in the future of not just the kids of Long Beach's education, but the entire state. It's a weighty responsibility, but one I know that you saw it. So talk to us about what you hope to do as chair of the Assembly Education Committee.
There's a lot of things, too many to talk about, too many
Of
to
course,
list right now.
and we'll be
But
talking about it throughout the
cover
years.
a few here. Very simply, I want to take my classroom experience to Sacramento. I want to take the Long Beach unified experience to Sacramento. We have a top-notch, cutting-edge district. I want to make sure that we have a voice in Sacramento. There's budget issues, there's funding. We're 48th in funding in California with regard to our schools. I'd also like to see more technology in the classrooms. I always say, blow up the book room, keep the library, but blow up the book room.
Well
put
stated.
those books on as computer devices, make things more efficient. I'd also like to see multiple paths to success, and by that I mean some more vocational educational opportunities be provided in our local school districts.
It's hard to deny that those paths have been cut off lately. That through the education crisis, adult education has been eviscerated. And there has been talk about shifting responsibility of adult education from the USDs, the high schools, to the community colleges. Whether that's the right move, I don't know. But what I can sense from you is that you'd like to kind of give a jump start to vocational ed / adult ed.
Right. Where it should exactly land or be, I don't know
Right.
at this time. It's something I'll certainly educate myself on. But it's not just about educating people, it's about the link to our economy. There's jobs that go wanting in our economy because we don't have the necessary skill set in our region. And so what I seek to do is provide that skill set to our regional economy.
There's one program in Long Beach that is seen as a model, and I want to know if you have the ability to take the model throughout the state, and that is what you know as the Long Beach Promise, which is the program whereby LBUSD, LBCC, and CSULB create a pathway. It's the paths that you're looking for, so that the transition from those institutions becomes seamless. Makes so much sense. But we're not seeing it statewide. Like, I would think we could. Is that something you can do as chair of education? Is that really something that has to be grown from the local arena?
Well, it's something I can spark the conversation on at the statewide level, show them what we've done and how it can benefit their local economies. So I think it's something that I absolutely can move forward at the Sacramento level.
We're also looking at a situation right now where there's a lot of angst surrounding teachers and teacher tenure and teacher dismissal. And you're a teacher yourself. And so I really want to talk to you about where we go with that, those scenarios. We know, for example, there was a race for superintendent of public instruction. And it was really a race between kind of those that supported, one could argue, those that supported reform in teacher tenure and those that did not. Where do we go with this issue? Forgetting the particulars, the optics of it, present challenges.
Well, listen, what I'm doing is heading up to Sacramento to make sure education has a louder voice in the state assembly. I will be that voice of education. And I'm sure I'll face a lot of issues, and one of them will be how we move our schools forward. And you can be sure I'll be very active on that issue.
But how do we focus on this, just because it's been so much on the front of mind? You saw all the ads I did as well, which was so much on this question of, look, it pains me as a father of two daughters who go to school that teachers are getting beat up. They're getting beat up.
But these same teachers are reforming what they do every day in their classroom. Reform goes on every second of every day in every classroom across California. So I have confidence that our teachers are doing a good job and doing everything they can to move the students in their classroom forward.
But what do you say, or what can you say, what can anyone say to those that would argue, look, I would love to get protection after 2 years, but I don't get that in my life. And so that's the poster that we're seeing. That's the metaphoric campaign ad where teachers are getting tarred with this whole notion of, they get special protections and we don't, and it's not fair. And where do you go with that?
Well, I think you're talking about the Vergara lawsuit. Listen, I'm not a constitutional lawyer. What I can tell you is what I see when I go into my school every day is I see teachers working hard. I see them working 10 hours a day to serve the students that are in their classroom. And that's what I see. And that's the experience I'm going to take to Sacramento.
I know what you've also seen is that the UC Board of Regents voted to increase tuition by, is it 5% a year for 5 years?
I believe that's the figure.
Yeah, I can't imagine Patrick O'Donnell. Well, I shouldn't say this. What do you think of it?
I think it's unfortunate.
Right, that was what I think you'd think of it.
I think it's an assault on the middle class.
Yeah, and so as chair of Assembly Education, I mean, look, this is a game of chicken. You know that. You know that the UC board is playing chicken with the legislature and the governor, and you get to be in the middle of it. Be careful what you wish for. So, where do you go with it, sir?
Well, I don't mind being in the middle.
I know that. I know it's exciting.
I see myself as a strong voice for education, and that's not just K-12. It's K through 16 and actually beyond in California, because the universities also benefit our economy.
Right.
So you can expect that I'll be a very strong voice for education, be it at any level, and I'll be weighing in on the UC issue. I don't like what the UC Regents did. I think that's unfortunate. I think it puts a greater burden on the kids who are trying to get through the system and out into our economy. Remember, we're having too many kids linger in these systems because they can't afford it, they can't get the classes. We need to get them out into our economy and working.
What about when you look at the CSU system? When you hear talk by some of the leaders, maybe we should make the UC system just a system for transfers.
I think that's going to require a greater conversation. I'm not there. Listen, I'm a UC I'm a CSU graduate, rather. CSU Long Beach.
I like it where we are today.
Exactly, where we are. I'm a 49er twice. I did my bachelor's here and my master's here. So I love the CSU system. I support the master plan of the CSU system.
So how's it been? You just got up there. It's only been a few weeks. What do you think? I mean, you're walking through the halls of Sacramento, the largest state in the union, 8th largest economy. I mean, who would have thunk a kid from Los Alamos High School? Is that what it's called?
Los Alamitos.
Los Alamitos. I mean, did you ever dream?
Well, you always dream.
Of course.
Listen, this is a job that anyone can do if they set themselves on a path. But it's an important job. It's a job about making sure our state moves forward, and I'm ready to tackle it. It's an impressive place, but I think my background is pretty impressive with regard to the issues I've had to deal with on city council, so I'm ready to take it on.
I bet you are. His name is Patrick O'Donnell. He is a member of the California State Assembly on Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.
For the 2014-15 school year, which university experienced the greatest number of applications? Harvard, Stanford, UCLA, or the University of Michigan? With 86,500 applicants, UCLA had the largest number of applicants for admissions filled for the 2014-15 school year.
It's California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Doug Haubert is here today. He is the city prosecutor in Long Beach. And we know that the voters recently passed what's known as Prop 47, three strikes reform. What it does is it reclassifies certain felonies to misdemeanors, drug possession, petty theft, forgery, some grand theft, unless there's some priors. A lot of anger about it amongst law enforcement. Statements like, this is absurd, this is going to wreak havoc. What's your sense of Prop 47?
Well, I think there are a lot of unintended consequences, and you're absolutely right. It did reduce from felony to misdemeanor certain drug offenses like possession of cocaine, possession of heroin, and things like that. There are a lot of ramifications that people didn't understand at the time they voted on it, I'm sure. For example, just to give you one example, if someone is mentally incompetent, the state can hold that person if they commit a felony up to 3 years while the state tries to rehabilitate that person so that they're competent to stand trial, if it's a felony. If it's a misdemeanor, the most the state can hold them in a psychiatric unit would be 6 months to a year. So what we're seeing just in the last few weeks, we've seen a number of people released from state prison psychiatric hospitals, not because of any reason other than the charge they were being held for went from a felony to a misdemeanor. We're seeing that happen in a lot of cases. People are resentenced in state prison and they're resentenced down to misdemeanor, so the time they've already spent is essentially the maximum they could have spent as a misdemeanor. So they're releasing thousands of people, and it's kind of a shock to the system.
At the same time, there's a lot of pressure to the system right now. As we know, the Supreme Court in 2011 ruled that California prisons were unconstitutional, requiring that the prison population decreased. We had a realignment program that has gone into place, somewhat controversial, with some success, it's hard to say. This is yet another tool, one could argue, to decrease the pressure on the prison system, no?
Well, I think that's definitely part of it. The state wants to reduce costs at the prison level, so they're sending people to the county jails.
But it's not even cost, it's the numbers. I mean, they got to get their numbers down or the governor will be held in contempt.
Well, it's both. They're trying to release people from the state prison. The first plan was to shift them from the state prison to the county jails. That's what realignment does. It doesn't reduce the sentences.
True.
It shifts the term of the sentence from the state prison to the county jail.
True.
And what we've seen is the county jails are now getting full of felons
also true.
who otherwise would have been held by the state. So now when someone is convicted of a misdemeanor crime, if it's less than 90 days of a sentence, they're essentially released immediately. We're seeing more than 90 days, some variation, maybe 5 to 10% of the time, but we're not seeing a month or two for serious crimes. We're seeing a day or two for some serious crimes.
But do Californians consider drug possession a serious crime? I mean, that really gets to the philosophical issue.
Well, that's actually one of the ironies of Prop 47. I think one of the goals was to increase rehabilitation as opposed to jail sentences for people that simply have a possession of any drug. And what used to happen is a person facing felony charges would be offered diversion. If you go to a counseling program and get help, you can get that felony dismissed. Now that person only faces a misdemeanor, and in LA County might only face a day or two or a week or two in county jail. So the public defender's office in LA County, they've essentially told us their clients, they're going to advise their clients not to take diversion, not to get treatment, because they're just going to be released as an alternative, and they won't have the strict probationary conditions if they just take the misdemeanor conviction. So it's had kind of an unintended consequence. It's pushing people out of, or moving people out of programs back onto the streets.
But we know that this can happen with the initiative process. I mean, California has a very robust process whereby anyone can draft a law, an initiative, and it can pass the voters. And that's what happened here.
Absolutely.
And so it begs the question, I mean, at a certain level, we could see this coming. I mean, we know that the public is itching on the question of overcrowded prisons to the extent they're aware of that, but just the way we are treating the incarcerated, the way that drug possessors are being treated. And so, you know, is it time for law enforcement to get together and not kick the can and just say, tough on crime, throw them in jail?
Well, it's the legislature that passes the laws.
Of course, but what I'm saying is, and I'm not talking about you specifically, I'm talking about generally speaking. I mean, is it time to look at sentencing reform? Because if this keeps happening, you know, we're going to have our own Willie Horton. You know that.
Well, I think some people consider this sentencing reform by moving this from a felony to a misdemeanor. And certainly public opinion has changed over the years.
But it's sentencing reform. Can I interrupt? Because it's sentencing reform by I don't know who drafted this, but arguably by non-experts. Arguably. I mean, I don't know who
Well, I'm not
drafted
so
Prop
sure they
47.
didn't know exactly what they were doing.
Well,
I'm not so
well,
sure.
No, but you know where I'm going. I mean, wouldn't it be better, one could argue, if the Long Beach City Prosecutor, the Long Beach District Attorney, or LA District Attorney, that leaders in this field do sentencing reform and not just initiative writers?
Well, you raise an excellent point, and that is, how did we get to here? And the way we got here was by not doing minor reforms along the way. Just to give you an example, it would have been good to take the foot off the gas pedal rather than stop the car completely. And essentially, that's where we've come right now. These are drastic measures because it got so bad for so many years. The jails got overcrowded, the prisons got overcrowded, the conditions got worse, the sentencing laws got ratcheted up, not downward. And as a result, we were stuck, the governor was stuck in a very tough position. And that's the result. The result of that is realignment and Prop 47. And now we're seeing the pendulum swung completely the other direction. And you're probably right. Law enforcement and prosecutors, if they had seen this coming, maybe they would have said, let's support some ratcheting down.
And anecdotally, so, you know, I'm active on Twitter, and I saw in the run-up to the Prop 47 election, what I'd call them as limousine liberals, were tweeting about the fact that Prop 47 would decrease the charge for firearms possession if the gun was worth less than $950. So that's like, you know, another one of those kind of unintended consequences. So you have people on the left and the right kind of screaming, wait a sec, I'm not sure about this Prop 47.
Well, that's one good example, just to focus on one thing. It used to be that theft of any firearm, regardless of the value of the firearm, could be charged as a felony. It doesn't have to be a felony, but it could be a felony. Prop 47 takes away the discretion of a prosecutor to file that as a felony. So in the district attorney's office, they would look at the person's background, how serious the offense is. For example, a lot of petty thefts. A lot of petty thefts are filed as misdemeanors. They could have been filed as felonies, depending on what was stolen or the person's background, but they're going to file them as misdemeanors. Now, if the person has a really bad record and a long history of recidivism, the DA could file felony charges.
Under 47.
Prior to 47, they could have. Now, after Prop 47, the DA has no discretion.
But isn't there some discretion if there are extensive priors?
The only exception is if they're a sex offender or they qualify with what they call a super strike, like murder and rape. It's going to happen extremely, less than 1% of the cases will this even be an issue.
What's also challenging, I guess you could say, for folks like yourself, is that Prop 47 is not only prospective, but retro.
Correct. That's why they're resentencing people that have been sentenced years ago.
So how are you dealing with that? Or is that all, I mean, I guess.
Well, the DA handles the resentencing.
Right.
Yeah. But we handle a number of cases that were in the pipeline prior to Prop 47. So the offense may have happened before November. They may have been in custody. In fact, many people were in custody waiting for their trial on their felony charges. On the day Prop 47 passed, the next day, those people said, I'm no longer charged with a felony. I want my bail reduced. I've already served 3 months in jail. That's time served on a misdemeanor.
Are you going to now have to hire more prosecutors? Because arguably, you're going to be busier.
Well, my office is going to have to look at hiring more people. The problem is the city of Long Beach has already divided its budget pie and shipped it off. So we're going to have a challenge here. And this is, by the way, what we've been dealing with for the last 5 years. We've had our budget cut every single year, except for the last 2 years. And so it's been very challenging. My office has used technology to do more with fewer people, fewer resources. And so now the question is, can we continue to handle these cases? This is about a third of the DA's cases being sent to our office.
Yeah, exactly. And the drug possession cases, I mean, you really are going to be the prosecutor of record on drug possession. I don't know.
The vast majority of cases.
As long as you're not distributing, you know, you're going to be the prosecutor of record. And
every case, yes.
How are you going to do that? I mean, there's a lot of drug possession cases.
Well, it's obviously going to be one of the biggest challenges for our office. The LA City Attorney's Office is in the same position.
Any money dedicated under Prop 47 for city attorneys?
There's no money dedicated for local prosecution of the crime. There is money that will be allotted, they say, if there's any savings from Prop 47. So, you know,
so that's not going to your office.
No, in a year or two, there'll be money, they say, to help K through 12 and other programs, but none of that money is earmarked for our office.
He is Doug Haubert, City Prosecutor in Long Beach. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.
Which county supported Prop 47 by the greatest margin? Marin, Mendocino, San Francisco, or Santa Cruz County? The voters of the county of San Francisco supported Prop 47 by the largest margin, 80.1%.
It's California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Charlie Parkin is here. He is the city attorney for Long Beach. You have been city attorney for about 2 years, and you are now one of the most senior members of the elected body in the city of Long Beach.
Yes, I am, Brad. That's interesting to say.
Think about it. You have a new mayor.
Yes.
You have 5 out of 9 council members are new, and you're about to get a 6th.
Yes.
Because someone won an assembly seat that was on the council.
That's correct.
So in a lot of ways, it's exciting, but in some ways, where's the institutional memory?
Right. We're lucky we have a really good staff. We have a good city manager, and the folks that are new are quick learners. We're really lucky. We've got some good folks that have been elected recently, and so they've taken on some big challenges and they had some big issues right away, right out of the gate.
At the same time, your much revered police chief was elected the sheriff of Los Angeles County.
Another big change.
Another big change. Your airport director has moved on to the Midwest.
Yes.
And this is Long Beach. This is not a small city. I mean, this is a major city in this region. 500,000 people live here. The ports are right here. A huge number of people rely on the ports for work. Where do you go with all this movement, all this change?
It's a challenge because, as you said, the institutional knowledge changes a little bit, but I think that it's a key. We're lucky that Sheriff McDonald is just still in our county and still a resident of Long Beach, and I think the city manager made an excellent selection in Chief Robert Luna, our new police chief. He's been with the city almost 30 years, so I think from that standpoint, the police department is in excellent hands, and we are going to be really lucky.
So part of the reason why there are so many new members on the city council and otherwise is there's a term limit regime here in Long Beach. And folks are, wondering, not just in Long Beach, but generally, is term limits serving us well? When you think about institutional memory, you lose that. To literally have 2/3 of your city council be new within a couple months, that's traumatic.
It's traumatic. It's unprecedented in Long Beach. We had, as you know, 2 of the council members ran for other offices.
Right.
One was my opponent, and then one was Mayor Garcia.
Right.
Now Mayor Garcia. And so that kind of changed the dynamics and created the 5. And then with Patrick successfully running for the state assembly, Patrick O'Donnell, that has created the 6. So it's something Long Beach hasn't experienced before. And I think the mayor is on a steep learning curve too, but he's doing a good job.
But I think about the role of the city attorney. You are sitting in every council meeting and or your designee to make sure that meetings run appropriately. If you have 2/3 of your membership never been at a council meeting in an official capacity, well, a lot of rulings,
A lot of rulings, a lot of late meetings. We've had a meeting go till 2 in the morning. We had another meeting go till midnight, 1 o'clock. It's getting a little bit better. We're getting a little bit better, but you're right. It's a slow process.
Do you have an opportunity to send council members through education, new council members?
We have reached out to the new council members and sat down with them and talked about just procedural issues. Brown Act, how you make a motion, how you put an item on the agenda.
I got to tell you, the Brown Act does not feel intuitive.
It is not, right.
The fact that you can't talk to more than half your council about an issue. What happened to collaboration and negotiation?
And that's been very difficult for some of our new council members who really want to be transparent and keep everyone involved.
And be collaborative.
Reaching out to them and saying, hey, remember, you can't talk to everybody, or you can't. And so we're getting those calls. And to be honest with you, I'm glad we're getting those calls because they know they're listening.
Apply to the mayor as well?
Yes.
So he can't talk to more.
Well, the mayor doesn't have a vote on the council, and the mayor can talk to folks. He can't act as a spoke or the hub and try and build a consensus, but the mayor can certainly communicate his message to the council members. In Long Beach, under the charter, the mayor has the right to fully deliberate on issues, but not vote.
His name is Charlie Parkin. He is the city attorney for the beautiful city of Long Beach. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.
9 of the 10 largest cities in the nation impose term limits on at least some of their elected officials. Which one does not? Chicago, Houston, Phoenix, or San Jose? Chicago stands alone as the only city of America's 10 largest cities that do not impose term limits on its elected officials.
It's California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance, and we are in Turlock, part of our road show throughout the state of California, and we are joined by Raul Mendez. He is the city manager in the city of Hughson, a quaint community right near Turlock in Stanislaus County.
Yes.
Tell us about Hughson.
Yeah, Hughson is a very nice small town, agricultural community. very strong roots heritage.
Roots, if we can use that term, being an ag county.
Ag definitely. Basically, America at its
Right.
finest. Quaint community where you can still go to the downtown and watch a parade during Halloween.
What I think is also very quaint is that you've come home.
Yes.
I mean, you grew up in Stanislaus County.
I did.
You went to Stanislaus State, but then you went away for college or for grad school, and so you're really helping your roots get to that next level.
Yeah. I grew up in Riverbank.
Right. Sure.
At the time when I was
Right
growing up,
near Modesto.
near Modesto, it was about the size of Hughson.
Right.
So kind of you don't have to look very far to see how things were done in other cities around the county. Now I have an opportunity to be part of the vision for the city of Hughson as we kind of go forward.
And I'm not surprised when you look at a town like Hughson, a city like Hughson, that you're looking to continue to build that family-friendly community. And as a result, you are partnering with the school district.
We are.
In a way to create synergies. Tell us about your project.
Yeah, definitely. I've been city manager with the city of Hughson for about a year and a half. One of the first items that was brought to my attention was this desire to bring back the community swimming pool that was, there was a need several years back to close it because of infrastructure issues with the actual pool structure. And so, folks would come to me and say, okay, Raul, when are you going to bring that community swimming pool back? And I started asking the questions, well, what are we doing, what are we doing to get ourselves in that position to be able to make that happen? And that led to the conversation with my counterpart at the school district, Superintendent Beck. We had a conversation, went to our 2+2 committee, which is made up of 2 members from the city council, 2 members of the school board, and we started the conversation.
So tell us about it. What is it going to be? Tell us what you're doing as part of what's known as the 7th Street Park Acquisition Project.
The initial concept was, was formed around the idea that the city would purchase some property from the school district that they consider surplus.
I see.
They purchased it many years ago, basically didn't have a use for it. And so that's where everybody that you spoke to, knew that was going to happen over time. It's 30 acres, just across the street from the high school.
So you're not revising or rehabilitating the former pool?
No, that pool was closed and it was converted into a nice centennial park.
Got it.
What we're trying to do is basically build a facility that will have a footprint for the community swimming pool down the road, provided that there's funding, support, and whatnot.
So let's talk about funding and support. How do you make that happen?
So
what's the model?
The first step, any project is, especially a pool project or a park project, is you have to have the property.
Sure.
So that was the first step, getting ourselves to a point where we could acquire the property from the school district. Timing worked out that there was a grant opportunity through the state, through the Land, Water, and Conservation Fund, to access some funding for 50%,
Nice.
of the acquisition cost. Obviously, the city would have to come up with the match, and we do have funds in our park development fees to be able to do that. And so that's how it started. We had this opportunity for the grant. Went to 2+2, went to the school board, went to the city council. They authorized city staff to proceed forward. And really, we put it together, hoping that it would be received favorably.
And it has.
But not really knowing if it was going to be, and it was. I mean,
groundbreaking happened yet?
Not yet. We're in the process of executing the purchase price agreement with the school district.
When do you expect the pool to open?
Well, the next step is actually acquiring the property, which will happen probably in the next month. I think one of the things that the council has been very careful about is let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
You'll come back and tell us about it?
We will.
He is Raul Mendez with Hughson. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.
9 of the 10 largest cities in the nation impose term limits on at least some of their elected officials. Which one does not? Chicago, Houston, Phoenix, or San Jose? Chicago stands alone as the only city of America's 10 largest cities that do not impose term limits on its elected officials.